Hi, this is Derek. Welcome back to 31 Days of Oscar. This month, of course, I'm talking about movies that have either won or were nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. And today I'm going to be talking about a 1994 nominee for Best Picture, and that's Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece, Pulp Fiction. Unquestionably one of the all-time greats, and a rite of passage for any lover of great movies. And I'll include myself in that because this definitely was one of the movies for me that kind of bridged the gap from, casual film fan, oh, I really like movies, da 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 da, to like, I want to live, breathe, eat, sleep, and shit movies, which this movie definitely helped in doing. I still remember when I was a kid, maybe like 10, 11, 12 or so, I had a video store membership. They'd have a deal like buy or rent three whatever movies for days for money. One weekend I rented Pulp Fiction and was blown away by it, and I never looked back. So definitely speak from experience there. It's a groundbreaking movie. For anybody who kind of experiences it. So real quick, I want to talk about the movie, of course. Probably gush about how much I love it. If you're looking for like a contrary opinion, like, oh, Pulp Fiction is overrated, it's not that good. No, you're not going to get that here. But real quick, before I kind of get into it, I want to share with you my Pulp Fiction sort of collection of versions I've collected over the years as a movie collector. So I have, of course, the VHS version, tried and true VHS. I still, of course, love my VHSs, and this is a special widescreen version of it, so not too shabby, huh? Pretty standard kind of stuff. Then, of course, and this was in 2002, a special collector's edition on DVD came out, and I was like so stoked to get that. And I remember getting it the first day. It came in a package with Jackie Brown. That was the first time Jackie Brown came to DVD, so that was a big deal. So it's pretty cool, kind of DVD set. Definitely for the time. I mean, it was something unique, something different, and DVD was still kind of a new thing. So, I mean, that was one of my ultimate must-gets on DVD, of course. Finally, there's, of course, the Blu-ray, which is the tried-and-true standard now. Great-looking Blu-ray, and this is, of course, the version I'll always watch. And actually, I just finished watching it before doing this review, and it's amazing to me. Like, I really don't know how many times I've actually seen it, but probably easily around 100 or so. Not kidding. Because like in watching the movie, I'm like, I can talk along with the dialogue of the movie. That's how like well I know it. It's like a song that you know off by heart or so. So there's that. So definitely it's something that there is a reason why it is as loved as it is by film fans, lovers of film, even those who would consider themselves a little more casual of film fans. There's something about it they keep on going back to, something always kind of a new experience through the movie with its incredible dialogue. The Tarantino's flair for dialogue, if not instantly apparent with his debut Reservoir Dogs. I mean, it's undeniable with Pulp Fiction, needless to say. The great use of soundtrack in the movie, too. Again, something kind of originally exercised with Reservoir Dogs, but brought to a perfected art here. And the incredible cast. I mean, we have such a diverse and great cast here. I mean, still probably John Travolta's best role, and that was kind of like the big thing when it first came out. The big talked about thing was, hey, John Travolta is in a good movie for once. It kind of took him out of his failing career at the time, and he's constantly been trying to get back in that rut. No, just kidding. Have you seen The People vs. O.J. Simpson? He's pretty good in it. And of course Samuel Jackson, that was his landmark fucking role. This was the movie where everyone associated Sam Jackson with being a badass motherfucker, as his wallet says. Uma Thurman, she's excellent, and of course a great supporting cast all around. Bruce Willis, Christopher Walken, Eric Stoltz, Harvey fucking Keitel, Quentin Tarantino in his own little role too, and quite a bit of other great actors within the movie. So definitely all those things kind of keep you coming back for more. Not just the dialogue itself, but the actors who deliver it. You can have good you can have good dialogue in a movie, but if it's delivered by a poor actor, I mean, it's pretty useless. You can have a good actor who can, as good as they are, as talented as they may be, if they have poor dialogue to work with, then it's pretty useless too. So here it's kind of like the combination of both those things, and it kind of aligns in such a beautiful and wonderful and miraculous way. So I mean, that's needless to say what a lot of people appreciate it about it. And as the years have gone by, and Quentin Tarantino's made more movies and made his MO more and more clear, I mean, definitely what I come to appreciate about the movie with every viewing a little bit more is just kind of like the hyper reality of the characters. Because like with every Quentin Tarantino, most if not all of the characters, they are these like hyper real versions of film characters, you know. So we see this movie and we see this world that he brings us into, which is a familiar world from other movies that we've seen before, crime movies, gangster movies, things like that. But they're very much film characters, but they don't really realize they're film characters. So there's kind of almost like a conflict there, where they're allowed to have like mundane conversations about, you know, what do they call a Big Mac in Europe? What do they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Europe? You know, how intimate is a foot massage? Things like that. And so that's kind of like we see basically what we're not allowed, in so many words, to see in these types of movies. So that really sets it up. When we see that first scene with Sam Jackson and John Travolta, that really sets it all up with the Jules and Vincent characters, where kind of like what one thing a lot of people bring up about kind of the tone the movie sets in that scene, the way the cinematography works. Like, of course, there's the example of it's a long take. It's following them through the hallway. They go up to the door and they're like, "What time is it? 7:22, man. Oh, too early. Let's hang back a bit." You know. Then we see the camera staying where they were positioned at the door, but then moving and looking back at them as if it's like waiting impatiently for like, get the fucking action starting, right? But that's not what this movie is about. It's not about action. It's about these characters as real people in these types of action movies, allowing themselves to be kind of regular people, even though they are film characters in these crazy film worlds, and seeing what would happen kind of in between. So that's what I love about Quentin Tarantino movies as a whole, and kind of what the characters who kind of like almost like begin to realize, like we see that like the gears kind of ticking with them in realizing that. So in a lot of his movies, they do sort of either subconsciously or not kind of come to that realization. So there's always a factor of characters trying to escape their world, right? So obviously with this movie, it's the Jules character who, in kind of recognizing that God took away these bullets, you know. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, the guy, they shoot up the. I'm talking about this movie as if I assume you've already seen it, by the way. So the guy, nicknamed Seinfeld, who's waiting in the other room while they're shooting up Frank Whaley, and you know, Ezekiel 25:17, motherfucker. Guy comes out, I'm gonna kill you, motherfuckers. No bullets hit them, which is not an unusual thing in these types of movies, because characters in these movies, they're immune to bullets. You know, even look like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. He, like, for the amount of bullets that he's dodged in those movies alone, I mean, it's incredible. But here's a character who kind of stops and think, wait a minute, why didn't these bullets hit me? God's telling me something like that. So he believes it to be a miracle, and that's how he kind of decides to leave the life. So it's about that. Ultimately, I mean, that's kind of where the movie ends and what he decides on, and it being in not a chronological order, we kind of see that it was kind of the right decision, and how in not recognizing that Vincent kind of makes the wrong decision by sticking around and getting shot on the toilet. It happens. And you know, in other movies from Tarantino, there's, you know, with Beatrix Kiddo, you know, how she's kind of leaving the life too, and even like Django Unchained, he's kind of leaving the life. So I mean, there's all that. So I do think there is this kind of weird hyper reality where these film characters are kind of defying their film gods up there, which is really just Quentin Tarantino with the fucking pulling the strings, right? So that's always an interesting thing to me, and kind of seeing their gears work a little bit. this is a movie that never really gets old. It doesn't feel dated because I mean, that something like that is universal, even though there's pop culture references and things like that. And of course, after this movie came out, we'd get kind of the people trying to dupe its super cool kind of style. It's super kind of casual dialogue, pop culture drop kind of style, which I mean we still see to this day, but none really captured quite that spirit. So in watching it again, I feel I appreciate that, and the great dialogue, which it just works based on the characters alone, not so much the fact that it's cool dialogue, but the fact that these characters are just allowed to have these types of conversations, and that's the point, I think. And in watching it again, I mean, it's definitely as good as it's ever been. Really, it never gets old. And the thing was, the last time I saw this movie, like I just before I got in front of this camera, I was just watching it. Um, the last time I watched it before that was actually a couple of years ago. I think 3 years ago. It's been 3 years since I watched that movie, which is way too long. This is a movie you got to watch, every 6 months, I think, for good health. But the last time I watched it, the reason why I didn't watch it again in a long time was because the last time I watched it was in theaters, which was fucking amazing to do that. Cineplex theaters, which is a chain in Canada. I don't know if they have them in the States, but every year they do this great digital film festival. So they select a bunch of movies within a week's time, and you can come and see them, and they're the classic movies. So I saw this and Reservoir Dogs at a double bill, so that was fucking awesome. So I wanted to hold on to that experience. Like, I have my own little, home theater setup. I have like kind of a projector thing and the surround sound, and all that's really cool. But there's just no comparing it to experiencing it with an audience, seeing it on the huge screen. There's just no comparing that, and definitely it heightens the experience, not just in it being such a cool movie, but as funny as a movie as this is. Like, this is a really fucking funny movie. So it was great to see it, people laughing along. Like, one thing I'll say, one thing that got kind of the biggest, most unexpected laugh from myself and the audience as a whole. Of course, we have the three sections of the movie. We have Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife. We have the Gold Watch and the Bonnie situation. And the Gold Watch, of course, story of Butch and his not following Marcellus Wallace's plan of taking the dive in the fight, and he's on the run, but he forgets his watch. His watch is really important because, as we see in the opening scene with Christopher Walken, who delivers this insanely expert and show-stopping monologue about the watch. We see it sort of as a recollection, sort of as a dream in Butch's head, where he sits the kid down and he's like, here's your watch. Your father, he held it up his ass for 10 years, no, for 5 years, and now I give the watch to you. So he gives this whole big story, right? So then later on, of course, Butch's girlfriend, she forgot to bring the watch, and he's looking through the suitcase. He's like, where the fuck is the fucking watch? Did you bring the watch or not? Do you have any fucking idea how important this watch is? Do you have any idea what my father went through to get me that watch? I don't have time to get into it right now, but he went through a lot. And that just made me fucking bust a gut laughing, and the whole theater laughed at that, which I didn't even really think of it as being that funny, but I don't have time to get into it. I don't know. I find that hilarious. And Bruce Willis is great in this movie. Butch is great. And the thing is, I mean, it is basically like three movies in one, sort of. And it's hard to pick a favorite from the three because each of them kind of have their sort of different themes, different arcs. And I think with it being in the non-chronological order that it is, I think it kind of sets up the appropriate overall arc of the movie, and having the opening scene, having the ending scene kind of intermingle with everything fucking sandwiched in between. I think it's absolutely brilliant in the way it is constructed. And I guess apparently, from what I hear, originally when the movie came out, people were like, did they mix the film reels or anything like that? But oh, come on. Quentin Tarantino's just being fun. So I think that's another reason why you kind of go back to it as much as you do, because you're like, oh yeah, this happened in this, and you can hear in the very first scene, you can hear in the background, you can hear their conversation, you can hear Jules and Vincent's conversation. So I love that. So it's hard to choose a favorite of the three segments in the movie, but definitely, if you're to twist my arm, I mean, I just love Harvey Keitel's character so much. Winston Wolfe, such a fucking great, moment in the movie where honestly, I'd say that's my favorite Harvey Keitel role. It's not a huge headlining role, it's not a starring role. He's an acting legend. Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Bugsy, The Piano, Bad fucking Lieutenant. Maybe this or Bad Lieutenant. That's a tough one, but he's just so fucking. He's perfect in this movie. Another favorite line of mine. It's like, wow, this car looks great. We cleaned it up real nice. Like, well, let's not start sucking each other's dicks just yet, fellas. And it's funny. So yeah, I mean, just a great cast and great moments, great dialogue. I mean, you can recite the dialogue from the movie till the cows come home. You really can. So it's a movie that I hold dear, and it's a movie that I feel is absolutely essential for any film fan, which I think is maybe kind of why I wanted to hold on to that theatrical experience as much as I can. And one thing I'll say that was interesting about that experience was I remember going into it in line. You go grab your ticket, you go up to the before you go into the Cineplex or Multiplex hallway to find your right theater, and the guy takes your ticket, whatever. I'm explaining how to go to a movie. Anyway, guy takes your ticket, you move on. I remember that night, it was a 9:30 showing, I think. There was this kid, he was trying to get in. He already bought his ticket, but the guy who was taking the ticket, he's like, "Do you have ID? Are you 18? You can't see this movie if you're not 18. And he's like arguing with him. He's like, "What the fuck? Let me see the fucking movie." And he didn't let him in, which sucked. I mean, just because you're under 18, they don't let you see this movie? There's something wrong with the rating system. Yeah, it has bad language, it has drug use, it has violence, but a lot of it is kind of unseen, like the scene with the Butch, like, slicing or stabbing with the samurai sword. You don't even see that. So, I mean, there's that. So, I don't know. There's something wrong with censorship, or not censorship, but just ratings in general. I mean, it's fantastical kind of violence like we see with, like, Kill Bill to the max. So I think Tarantino's always been testing that limit and playing around with that. But, I think back to me renting that movie, and I was probably like 11, let's say 11, when I rented that movie. If I didn't get to rent it, if I brought that up to the fucking register and said, "Hey, I want to rent this," and he said, "No, you're not 18," that would have deprived me of so much. So I don't know, it's a lot to think about. But anyway, that's my review of Pulp Fiction, an absolute fucking classic. But you don't need me to tell you that, at least I hope not. If you haven't seen the movie, I mean, literally stop everything you're doing right now and check it out. It's the best advice you'll get all day. So Pulp Fiction, a masterpiece. I love it. One of the all-time greats. What can I tell you? So thank you very much for watching my review. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, I'll see you later.